All right, today we're going to do this in a very natural way. First, I'm going to read this news normally. Just listen. Don't stop yourself every second. Don't worry if you miss a few words. That's normal. Then, we're going to come back line by line and really understand what is happening. We'll explain the difficult words, the strong expressions, and the meaning behind them. This is one of the best ways to improve your English because you're not only learning vocabulary, you're learning how English sounds in real life. So, relax, listen carefully, and let's begin. Iran's IRGC says the Strait of Hormuz will be closed until the U.S. lifts the blockade. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, known as the IRGC, said it will blockade the Strait of Hormuz this evening. The organization's naval forces made the statement on Telegram on Saturday. The IRGC warned that approaching the Strait of Hormuz will be considered cooperation with the enemy, and any offending vessel will be targeted. After declaring the waterway open on Friday, Iran reimposed restrictions on the passage of ships on Saturday, citing repeated breaches of trust by the U.S. in the two-side ceasefire. In violation of the ceasefire agreement, the American enemy did not lift the naval blockade on Iranian vessels and ports. Therefore, starting this evening, the Strait of Hormuz will be closed until this blockade is lifted. The military group warned that vessels should not move from their anchor points in the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman. The IRGC also urged ships and their owners to only follow updates from Iran and said that statements from the U.S. president hold no credibility. In a statement to state media, Iranian parliament speaker and top negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf called the U.S. blockade of the strait an ill-considered and ignorant decision. Nuri, now let's go back and understand everything slowly. All right, now let's take our time. This is the part where your English really grows, because now we stop reading fast and we start understanding deeply. Nuri. Iran's IRGC says Strait of Hormuz will be closed until U.S. lifts blockade. This first line is the headline. A headline is usually short, strong, and direct. News headlines do not always use full natural grammar the way people speak in everyday conversation. They are written to be quick and powerful. Now let's break it down. IRG stands for Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. That is a powerful military organization in Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is a very important waterway. It is a narrow sea route. A lot of ships pass through it, especially oil ships. So when people talk about closing it, this is not a small thing. It affects the whole world. Then we have the phrase, will be closed. That means this route will not be open for normal ship movement. Then, until U.S. lifts blockade. The word until means this situation will continue up to the moment something changes. And lifts here means removes or ends. So when we say lifts the blockade, we mean the U.S. stops the blockade. A very natural way to say the whole headline in simpler English would be, Iran says the Strait of Hormuz will stay closed until the U.S. removes its blockade. That is the simple meaning. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, known as the IRGC, said it will blockade the Strait of Hormuz this evening. Now this sentence gives us the full name. Known as cargs is a very useful English phrase. For example, the United States, known as the U.S., television, known as TV, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, known as the IRGC. It simply means, this is the shorter name people usually use. Then we have the verb blockade. This is an important word. A mock blockade is when a country or military force blocks access to an area, usually by sea, land, or air, to stop movement, trade, or supplies. This is stronger than just saying close. Close can sound simple. Blockade sounds military, forceful, and serious. For example, the army blockaded the city. The navy blockaded the port. The country threatened to blockade the waterway. So here, it will blockade the Strait of Hormuz. Means Iran says it will stop ships from passing through that route. And then we have ein day. This evening. That just tells us the time the action is supposed to start. The organization's naval forces made the statement on Telegram on Saturday. Now this line tells us who said it and where the message appeared. Naval forces means the military forces connected to the sea, in other words, the Navy. So if you hear naval base, naval operation, naval forces, naval blockade, all of that is connected to ships, sea power, and military action in the water. Then, made the statement. This is formal English. It means they officially said something. In daily conversation, people might simply say, they said, they announced, they posted, but in news English, made a statement. Sounds more official, and Telegram. Here is the app or platform where the message was shared. So this whole line means the Navy branch of the IRGC officially posted this message on Telegram on Saturday. The IRGC warned that approaching the Strait of Hormuz will be considered cooperation with the enemy. This sentence is very strong. First, the word warned. A warning is not a casual comment. It is serious. It tells people that danger may come if they continue. Examples. The teacher warned the students not to cheat. Police warned people to stay away from the area. The government warned ships not to enter the zone. Then we have approaching. Approach means to come near, to move closer. Examples, the car is approaching. A storm is approaching the coast. The ship was approaching the port. So here, approaching the Strait of Hormuz means getting close to that waterway. Then comes the phrase, will be considered cooperation with the enemy. This is important language. Will be considered so means will be seen as or will be treated as. For example, silence will be considered agreement. Late payment will be considered a violation. Entering the area will be considered a threat. Now, cooperation here means working together, helping or acting in support of someone. The enemy means the opposing side in a conflict. So the message is, if ships come near the strait, Iran will see that as helping the enemy. That is a very serious accusation. A simpler version, if you come close, we may treat you like you are on the other side. And any offending vessel will be targeted. This is one of the strongest lines in the news. Let's break it carefully. Offending comes from the verb offend. But here it does not mean hurting someone's feelings. It means breaking a rule, crossing a line, doing something unacceptable. So an offending vessel means a ship that disobeys the order. Then the word vessel. In news English, especially in sea or military news, vessel is a formal word for ship or the boat. Examples, a cargo vessel, a fishing vessel, a military vessel. Then will be targeted. Targeted means chosen as the object of attack or action. It does not always mean attack in every context, but in military news, that is usually what it suggests. Examples, the building was targeted, the convoy was targeted, enemy positions were targeted. So this sentence means any ship that breaks this warning may be attacked. That is why this language sounds very dangerous and tense. After declaring the waterway open on Friday, Iran reimposed restrictions on the passage of ships on Saturday. There are many good English expressions here. First, declaring. To declare means to officially say or announce something. Examples, the government declared a holiday. They declared victory. The city declared a state of emergency. So Iran first officially said the waterway was open. Then the word waterway. A waterway is a route in the water used by boats or ships. Simple meaning, a sea path or river route people travel through. Then we get reimposed. This is a very useful advanced word. Imposen means to put a rule, tax, restriction, or duty on people. Reimposen means to put it on again after removing it. Examples: the government reimposed sanctions. The school reimposed old rules. Restrictions were reimposed after the violence returned. So, reimposed restrictions means the rules came back. Then, the passage of ships means ships moving through the area. So the meaning is, Iran had opened the water route, but then on Saturday it put the rules back again and limited ship movement. That is a major shift. Citing repeated breaches of trust by the U.S. in the two sides' ceasefire. This is rich English. Let's slow down. The word citing means giving something as the reason. For example, the company fired him, citing poor performance. They canceled the event, citing safety concerns. The country reimposed restrictions, citing security threats. So here, Iran says its reason is the next part of the sentence. Then, repeated breaches of trust. This is a strong phrase. A re-breach is a break, a violation, or a failure to respect an agreement. A re-breach of trust means somebody did something that damaged trust. Examples: lying to your friend is a breach of trust. Sharing private information is a breach of trust. Breaking an agreement can be seen as a breach of trust. Then we have repeated, which means happening again and again. So, repeated breaches of trust and means trust was broken many times. That's stronger than just saying, we had a problem. It suggests there were several disappointments or betrayals. Then, the two sides ceasefire. A ceasefire is an agreement to stop fighting, usually temporarily. Examples: the ceasefire lasted 2 days. Both sides agreed to a ceasefire. The ceasefire collapsed. So this line means Iran says it brought back the restrictions because the U.S. kept breaking trust during the peace agreement. In violation of the ceasefire agreement. This phrase is very common in political or legal English. Violation means breaking a rule, law, agreement, or principle. Examples: that is a violation of the law. The attack was a violation of international rules. They were accused of violating the agreement. So, in violation of the ceasefire agreement means breaking the ceasefire agreement. A simpler version. This goes against the peace agreement. Very important phrase. Chaturfenj. The American enemy did not lift the naval blockade on Iranian vessels and ports. Now let's explain this carefully. First, lift. In News English, lift often means remove or end. Examples: lift sanctions, lift restrictions, lift a ban, lift a blockade. So here, did not lift means did not remove. Then again, we see naval blockade. As we said before, naval connected to the Navy or sea forces. Blockade is stopping movement. So a naval blockade is when ships or military sea power are used to prevent access. Then, Iranian vessels and ports. Vessels means ships. Ports are places where ships arrive, stop, load, and unload. So this means the U.S. did not remove sea-based restrictions on Iranian ships and Iranian ports. And notice the phrase, the American enemy. This is politically strong language. It shows hostility and conflict. It is not neutral language. It is meant to sound forceful. Noreen. Therefore, starting this evening, the Strait of Hormuz will be closed until this blockade is lifted. The word. Therefore, is a great academic and formal English word. It means, because of that, for that reason. So, examples. The roads are flooded, therefore, schools are closed. He broke the rules, therefore, he was punished. The blockade remains, therefore, the strait will be closed. So this line means, because the blockade was not removed, we are now closing the Strait of Hormuz. Again. Until this blockade is lifted means the closure will continue until the blockade ends. This is a condition. A condition is something that must happen first. So the condition here is no reopening until the blockade is removed. The military group warned that vessels should not move from their anchor points in the Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman. This sentence gives instructions. We already know warned is serious language. Then vessels again means ships. Now let's talk about anchor points. An anchor is the heavy object ships drop into the water to stay still. So an anchor point is the place where a ship is stationed or resting. Very simply, you can think of it like the ship's parked position. So such should not move from their anchor points. Means stay where you are, do not leave your current position. This is very tense language because it suggests danger if ships begin moving. Then we have the Persian Gulf and/or the Sea of Oman. These are the nearby waters in that region. The IRGC also urged ships and their owners to only follow updates from Iran. The verb urged is softer than ordered, but still strong. Urged means strongly advised, strongly encouraged. Examples: doctors urged people to stay home. Police urge residents to avoid the area. The government urged citizens to remain calm. So they are strongly telling ships and ship owners, listen only to Iran's announcements. Then, updates means the latest information or instructions, very common word. Examples: I'll give you updates tomorrow. Follow official updates. We're waiting for more updates. So this line means Iran is telling ships, do not listen to others, only trust the instructions coming from us. And said that statements from the U.S. president hold no credibility. This is a very useful expression in English. Statement means an official comment or public message, then hold no credibility. Credibility means trustworthiness or believability. If somebody has credibility, people believe them. If they have no credibility, people do not trust them. Examples: the witness had no credibility. His story lost credibility. That source is highly credible. So when they say the U.S. president's statements hold no credibility, they mean we do not trust what he says. We do not believe his words. That's strong political language. In a statement to state media, Iranian parliament speaker and top negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf called the U.S. blockade of the strait an ill-considered and ignorant decision. Now let's look at the final line. First, state media. This means media controlled or run by the government. Then, parliament speaker. That is a high political position. The speaker is a leading official in parliament. Then, top negotiator. A negotiator is someone who discusses and tries to reach agreements. Examples: she is a skilled negotiator. The negotiators met for peace talks. He served as the top negotiator. Now the phrase, ill-considered. This is a strong advanced word. It means not thought through carefully, a bad decision made without enough wisdom or care. Examples: that was an ill-considered comment. He made an ill-considered choice. The plan was ill-considered from the start. Then, ignorant. This word means lacking knowledge or understanding. Sometimes it can sound harsh or insulting. In this sentence, it is clearly meant as criticism. So, an ill-considered and ignorant decision, it means a very bad decision that was not thought through and showed poor understanding. This is strong formal criticism. Let's review the most important advanced words and phrases. Now let's bring everything together and make sure the vocabulary stays in your mind. Blockade, stopping movement or access, usually by military force. Example: the Navy imposed a blockade. The Lift to remove or end something official. Example, the government lifted the ban. Darchu, vessel, a formal word for ship or large boat. Example, several vessels were waiting offshore. True, targeted, chosen for attack or action. Example, the vehicle was targeted. Reimposed, put in place again. Example, the city reimposed safety restrictions. Restrictions, rules, or limits. Example, travel restrictions were announced. Tagur, citing, giving a reason. Example, they canceled the trip citing safety concerns. Beats, breach of trust, an action that breaks trust. Example, lying was a serious breach of trust. Ceasefire, an agreement to stop fighting. Example, the ceasefire lasted only a few days. Violation, breaking a law, rule, or agreement. Example, that is a clear violation of the agreement. Nervingsum, anchor point, the place where a ship stays still. Example, the vessel remained at its anchor point. Mardigsurtar, credibility, trustworthiness, believability. Example, the report has a lot of credibility. Ill-considered, not carefully thought through. Example, it was an ill-considered decision. Let me say the whole meaning in very simple English. Now that we understand the vocabulary, let me explain the entire news story in easy English. Iran says it will close the Strait of Hormuz because the U.S. did not remove a sea blockade on Iranian ships and ports. Iran had opened the waterway before, but then changed its decision and brought back restrictions. It warned ships not to come near the area and said any ship that breaks the rule could be attacked. Iran also told ships to stay where they are and only trust information coming from Iran. Finally, an important Iranian official strongly criticized the U.S. decision and called it careless and ignorant. That is the simple meaning of the whole story. Why this lesson matters for your English. This is why learning through real news is powerful. You are not just learning random words from a list. You are hearing formal English, political English, military vocabulary, cause and effect language, strong warning language. This is the kind of English that helps you sound smarter, more natural, and more aware of the world. And something else matters too. When you first listen without stopping, your ear gets stronger. Then when you come back and explain, your understanding gets deeper. That combination is powerful. That is how English starts to feel real. Small speaking practice. Now let's practice a few sentences together. Repeat these slowly. The Strait of Hormuz will be closed. The U.S. did not lift the blockade. Iran reimposed restrictions. The group warned that ships would be targeted. The statement held no credibility. It was called an ill-considered decision. These are strong sentences. If you practice them, your pronunciation and confidence will improve too.